Welcome, everybody. Welcome here to, this would be our third installment of Community Roundtables. My name is Rick Chase. I'm a volunteer with the Ottawa Board of Trade. I'm very proud to volunteer with the Board of Trade's Advocacy Committee. The Ottawa Board of Trade, just to kind of set the table here a little bit, it is over the lunch hour, is a not-for-profit organization, also a nonpartisan organization, and is membership driven. So really, what is a Board of Trade or a Chamber of Commerce? It's a collection of businesses that pool resources together for a couple of different reasons. Depending on each member that you talk to, you might hear something a little bit different from them as to why they're members. For some, it really is this advocacy type work that we do primarily with the City of Ottawa, although we do also do some work with the province and sometimes the federal government as well. This is Ottawa, of course, and there's a few other levels of government from time to time that we also interact with and different stakeholders. And some members join for networking opportunities and business-to-business networking that can happen. And for some, it's for education as well, as we have many educational events and series throughout the year. But today we're talking a little bit about kind of advocacy, and we have the opportunity as a committee to poll our membership just about a month and a half ago as to what were their key priorities as members for this upcoming election and this upcoming municipal election. And really, what does that mean? Well, what are the priorities we'd like to see the next elected council really focus on? And I'd encourage anybody to please take a look at our buildupottawa.ca website. Build Up Ottawa, it's a microsite that we've built specifically for this election. The name Build Up Ottawa can imply that we're focused on building from a housing standpoint, and we do think that, and it is one of our priorities, of course, affordable housing, more affordable housing, and more community housing as a priority that the business community is standing behind. But when we talk build from a context, we're talking about how we'd love to see this next council and our next mayor be hyper collaborative and really be focused on creating an affordable, inclusive, sustainable, world-class city, right? And those are some big words, but we as a business community, I don't want to say we're demanding it, but we're probably now putting more energy and more time into requesting this of our next council. We want to see commitments to growth, funding really smart transit projects and really smart infrastructure, fostering innovation, and thinking more about the future than ever before. So that's kind of a long-winded intro, especially from a volunteer, but I've had practice. This is the third one now. I'm very happy to welcome from more of our kind of the center of the city. I don't want to just say downtown, because it's not just downtown, but from Somerset wards and Rideau Vanier wards, on the line, we have some councillor candidates who are here to have a bit of a discussion with us today. What I'd love to do is I'm going to use a randomizer, and just to be fair, and I'd love for each of the candidates as we kind of go around the table here to take 1 minute to introduce themselves, and you have a bit of an opportunity to speak directly to the business community in your introduction. But I'd love to hear a little bit more about you as a candidate, and specifically why you'd like to be a city councillor here in Ottawa. So I'll turn on my little randomizer here, and I'll turn it over to Laura Shantz, who's from Ward 12, Rideau Vanier Ward. Laura, if you'd like to begin, 1 minute, maybe please tell us a little bit more about yourself and why you're running to be councillor.
Sure, thanks, Rick. And thank you to you and the Board of Trade for organizing this chance to let us get to know your community a bit. So my name is Laura Shantz. I'm a city council candidate here in Rideau Vanier. And for me, why I wanted to run is really that we're at a moment in our city where we're on the cusp of so many big, exciting things happening. We're really at a moment where we have a chance to transform how it is we get around our city, how it is we're going to house our city, how it is we're going to build the community for everyone that we want to see. And for me, when we talk about that, we talk a lot about residents, We talk also a lot about businesses because we know that the business community is a part of our neighborhood. We know that many business owners live here in Rideau Vanier, they work here in Rideau Vanier, and they really want to be serving their neighbors. And to me, it's really essential that business folks and community members are together at the table with city councilors, because if I'm the successful candidate, it's not just me adding my voice. It is me along with residents, along with business owners, along with all the folks that make our city great, working together to create the best neighborhood for all. And to me, we are at a moment where we can make so much positive change. We know we need to be working to improve Byward Market, Montreal Road, Beechwood, and this can happen. Rideau Street as well, King Edward. These are all important corridors. We can be improving them. We can make a lot of great change if we do it together. Thanks very much.
Thank you so much. And anybody watching the video or watching from home will see that occasionally I kind of raised up a little white card, and that's just to moderate the candidates a bit without trying my best not to interrupt the thought. So thank you, Laura. And I appreciate that it's a little awkward when I just kind of cut you off like that, but thank you. Over to Brandon Russell. Brandon Russell, over to you. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Take a minute, please.
Thanks so much, Rick, and thanks to the Ottawa Board of Trade for hosting us here today, and to everyone from the community and everyone watching at home as well. I think that a little bit about me. As Rick said, my name is Brandon Russell. I'm running for City Council here in Somerset, here in our downtown core, where we have a ton of small businesses. They're the backbone of our economy. They're the backbone of our day-to-day life here in Somerset Ward. And I think that the only way that we're going to be able to continue to have a prosperous city and to make our city even more prosperous and into the dawn of a new era is to engage with our business owners, to engage with the business community, and to take that to a city council table. I'm a small business owner here in Somerset Ward myself. I run a political consulting firm. And, I've worked with small businesses. I've worked with political candidates across Canada and the US before, on the public relations side, on the, community and governmental advisory side. So I look forward to taking all of that experience and working with everyone and their voices onto to the city council table this fall. Look forward to anyone that has any questions to reach out. My website is brandonrussell.ca. Thanks so much, Rick, and thanks to the Ottawa Board of Trade as well.
That's great. Thank you very much, Brendan. Turning it back on the little randomizer here. Over to Stuart MacKay. Stuart.
Thanks, Rick, and thanks to the Board of Trade for hosting this. I think this is a really important event because we're going to have some remarkable changes that's going to be happening in the city over the course of the next 4 years. My background is as a public transit advocate and a community activist. I helped to co-found a group called Ottawa Transit Riders a few years ago. I've also served on the board of the Centertown Community Association. And during my time with the CCA, I spent quite a bit of time doing outreach to small businesses here in Somerset Ward, listening to how they were coping with the pandemic, how they were dealing with the lack of customers, how they were changing their business model to serve the community. So I understand how important it is and the challenges that have happened over the next 4 years. One of the reasons why I'm running is I feel that the city is not delivering the high quality public services that our residents deserve. Things like cracked and broken sidewalks, garbage cans that aren't being emptied, and streetscapes that aren't lively. And all these things affect businesses, both large and small. So I'd like to see the city return to the basics, get the basics right, have good transit, make sure that streets are clean and well kept. And that'll help develop a better commercial avenues, especially Bank Street, which has seen better days, to be quite honest. We're also going to have to think about revitalizing our downtown core. Somerset Ward is home to Ottawa's downtown core, which we know has faced its own challenges over the past couple of years, and we're going to need to reimagine a new downtown core, one that's livable, one that's vibrant, and one where people can live, work, and play. I'm excited to be a leader in that role, and I look forward to, if I earn the trust of the voters of Somerset Ward, to be a leader in downtown revitalization over the next 4 years.
Thank you very much, Stuart. And to Ariel Troster. Ariel.
Hi, everybody. Apologies if you hear a cat purring. My cat has taken residence right beside me. So my name is Ariel Troster. I'm running for City Council in Somerset Ward, where I've lived for the last 12 years. I've spent the last 5 years working at the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, where I worked with a team that helped negotiate a lot of the big funding agreements that have come into cities that have also, by their very nature, helped businesses, including a permanent transit fund and the National Housing Strategy. I decided to run for council after working at home for the last 2.5 years, being deeply embedded in my neighborhood and seeing that so many of my neighbors were struggling with homelessness and addiction, and that, you know, the parts of our neighborhood that were doing really well and where the businesses are thriving are the ones where people live and where those businesses serve those of us who live here. But there's other parts of the neighborhood that are deeply underserved, and there's also a lot of development going on. So the number one thing I'm hearing from neighbors, if you want to know what businesses they want, grocery stores, hardware stores, the kind of nuts and bolts things, because what I'm hearing from a lot of people is, I moved into what was supposed to be a 15-minute neighborhood and I still need my car to go get groceries. Another wonderful example of a business that did a pivot is my favorite pizza place is called Pizza Nerds. It's at the corner of Flora and Bank. They originally opened as a pub during the pandemic, and they pivoted to pizza delivery, which became very, very popular during the pandemic. And then now they're doing really well and have opened other businesses. So I believe that when we have good affordable housing, when we have good services for people who are struggling, and we have good transit, those serve our residents well. And I know that a lot of residents would love the opportunity to have a dialogue with the business community about the kind of services and businesses they really want to see in their community. I can tell you straight up, the people at LeBreton Flats desperately want a grocery store, and so do the people at Bay and Slater. So, you know, winning concept for anyone who would like to set one up. It's very nice to meet all of you, and thanks to Rick and the Board of Trade for having us.
Thank you very much. I was told before not to, I shouldn't say told, I was asked to do my best not to, interact too much, because then I might accidentally, inadvertently endorse or not endorse, right? So, but I think there's some wise points that have been said already, and specifically, hopefully there's some grocery store owners listening, because the community's calling for it. Let's go.
Number one thing.
Over to Alan Neef. Alan is here on behalf of Stephanie Plant. Alan, I'll turn it over to you.
So thank you very much for having me and for the Ottawa Board of Trade. I do want to send my regrets on behalf of Stephanie. Stephanie got invited to do an event for the Famous Five honoring women in politics, and so it conflicted with this time, and so that's why she is there. Rather than speak directly for Stephanie, I'd rather speak about my experience and why I am supporting her campaign. And I think that one of the things that struck me very clearly was we were at an event and we happened to be there, and she texted me in the back and she said, it's interesting, there's not anybody who's a person of color on the panel. And for me, that's very important. And the someone that is a white woman that recognized that, who's very switched on diversity and inclusion, is something that is very important to me, and something that I think that the business community can do a lot more of to be able to attract that type of investment. I will say this is that Stephanie is very much committed to small business. She has quite a few platform points on that, namely investing in the long-term viability of the byward by going through the byward market realm plan. She wants to streamline the process for construction permits so that those that are streamlined can be used to increase social and affordable housing. She wants to bring forward a right of first refusal motion so that we can diversify the wards and have priority housing in the area. And for the byward market, in addition to the byward market realm plan, she wants to work with local BIAs to support and advocate for small businesses. She wants to pilot food kiosks, small stands, and outdoor seating. And she wants to ensure that community stations and BIAs are consulted on decision-making and important subjects. So merci à tous pour les commentaires, et merci Rick pour l'opportunité de parler à tout le monde.
Ben, merci encore à vous pour être ici, et on est tout tellement fiers. We're very proud to be hosting these, and myself, I'm very proud to be hosting these events here today. Two candidates remain that we've yet to hear from, using the randomizer here so that we're fair. Over to Patrick Auguste. Patrick, over to you.
Hello, thank you for having me and for putting that event in place. I have talking about myself. I have an MBA from UQAM in Montreal and a lot of experience in finance, accounting management. And I have had a business. I run a business in the past for a few years, but left because I started to teach at Ottawa U. And the reason I'm in candidate is because I live in the ward and I saw a general lack of leadership from the city. It's very challenging that we have in the ward, especially Rideau, Vanier. When you see homeless people, you see a lack of security, violence. It's like people are left alone. And a lot of people from different communities, even if they're there, they don't have any relation with them. I think that to build up a ward and a city, you have to a little bit reduce that social stressful from the population to make them comfortable, and then they can produce. That's a key factor here. And I got 15 years of involvement in community, generally speaking, in youth and media. I'm ready to serve, to do more. That's the reason why I am running. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Patrick. And last, certainly not least, Kim Leclerc. Kim, over to you.
Hi, thanks for having me today, and it's really a pleasure to have a chance to discuss with all the members. My name is Kim Leclerc, and I have some experience in the ministerial office for 10 years in politics. I also have experience in the private sector where I'm working today, and I've been on the board of director for Board of Trade, Chambre de commerce française au Canada, section Québec, for 3 years. So I have a good understanding of a few of the things. The reason I'm running is because we see that our city, especially our wards, have been really challenges among the few years, and we can see that the change coming can be a threat, but also it's an opportunity to make things better, to make the change the way we want to be. And I want to do this for my two sons. I want to let to them and build in a better Ottawa and make sure that they grew up in a place that they have as much as opportunity as I have and you have. I think for the people's working like you, it's really important to take care of our small businesses. This is what is the art of our community. When we are in the market or in Vanier, if you go take a pizza at Louis, take a coffee at Bridget or Goats, or it's what it make Ottawa, and we have to protect them and make sure that you're able to continue to do your businesses. And sometime when we do at the city change, we'll speak later. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Kim. And again, if anybody's watching and sees that all of a sudden a candidate just kind of stops, it's because I'm moderating a little bit here behind the scenes. But I do appreciate the professionalism of everybody as we move forward. You will have another chance, Mr. Leclerc. I'll turn things back over to you in just a few moments. But I do want to go back around the table. I'll use a randomizer again so that it's fair. But I'd love to ask this group of candidates specific questions that the business community is really wondering, and it has a lot to do with confidence. And talked a bit off the top about collaboration. I think a little bit of that would be important as well, to hear about collaboration and how you intend to collaborate as a city councillor. But here's the question. Cities around the world are beginning to aggressively invest in post-pandemic kind of economic plans to attract talent to their communities and to attract investment into their communities. You know, as we look to revitalize our downtown core, as we look to our recovery, and you know, it's a good question, especially for Rideau, Vanier, and Somerset wards. How do we inspire confidence for investors and entrepreneurs? Right, and as we go through, I mean, if you need me to repeat that when it comes around to you, I get it, because it was kind of long-winded and I was editorializing my own question a little bit maybe more than I should have been. But really want to hear about how do we inspire confidence, and how do we get investors to look at, you know, the city and coming to our city, no matter where in the city. But specifically, I think we can all, anyone from no matter where you live in this city, can see the value in the revitalization, in some cases, of both Rideau Vanier wards and Somerset wards in particular. And it feels maybe disproportionately affected by the pandemic compared to other regions in the city. That's just my point of view. So I'll turn on my little randomizer here. Go. Stuart MacKay. Stuart, over to you. How do we inspire confidence for investors and entrepreneurs?
Yeah, you know, this is a really great question. It's one that's come up at the doors quite a bit, as Brandon and Ariel know, that Somerset Ward residents ask you tough questions when you go to the doors. So and detailed policy questions, because we've got a lot of policy wonks that live in this ward. But you know, we're in a global race for talent right now. We're competing on a global scale. You know, we have incredible universities here. We have incredible colleges. We want to attract students. We want to attract new Canadians. We want to attract businesses from around the world. But you know, they're going to do a cost-benefit analysis, right? They're going to look at the city and they're going to say, what can the city provide workers? Can they provide green space? Can they provide world-class transit? Can they provide abundant housing? And I think on many of those metrics, Ottawa is falling short. And you know, I talk a lot about public transit as somebody who's dealt with a transit file for several years. And you know, having a frequent and reliable transit system is an incredible attractor to talent, to businesses, if they know that their workers can get to their business on time, if they know that businesses can grow because people can go to small businesses or access shops and services. You know, I used to work in an industrial park out in Nepean, and transit there was terrible. And I remember talking to my former employer then, and he said one of the reasons that it was hard to retain people was because the bus was very random. It would show up, you know, every 2 hours. And you know, one of the lines that we always talk about in the transit advocacy world is, you know, a bus that comes every 10 minutes is a job creator, but a bus that comes every hour is a job killer. And so frequent and reliable transit is going to have to be a key cornerstone if we want to make Ottawa competitive on the global stage.
Thank you very much, and appreciate your answer. One of our strategies or one of our, I guess, advocacy top 5 points is really about building infrastructure specific to transit for growth, right? And looking at economic development, looking at economic impacts for transit is obviously very important to the business community. So, you know, Ottawa Airport completing the transit lines to the Ottawa Airport as an example from the business community is very important. But I think you could expand that to high impact projects throughout the city, but just putting that lens from an economic development standpoint onto transit, we think it serves both purposes. You know, it can help generate the tax dollars necessary for other, you know, pieces of the project that maybe have more social impact, and vice versa, with a very healthy and robust kind of, let's put it on the social side of the community, that also drives businesses want to operate in that environment, right? And we do believe that it goes both ways and it's symbiotic. So here I did what I said I wouldn't do, which is comment and endorse. That's not an endorsement. Over to the next candidate. I should have said off the top, and you did a great job of kind of self-moderating, Stuart, but about 2 minutes or so is fair for these answers. So, and thank you for kind of staying inside that, even though I hadn't said that off the top. So Brandon Russell from Ward 14, I'll turn it over to you. Take 2 minutes, and how do we inspire confidence for investors and entrepreneurs?
Thanks, Rick. And but quickly on Stuart's points there, yeah, we have a number of policy wonks here, and it's so great to see. And a lot of them are business centric as well. Who I've noticed that work in either global affairs, that are helping attract businesses into Canada, or that are working with businesses globally. And I think that's really important here, is that we continue to work with our provincial and federal colleagues to help attract businesses internationally and locally as well, to invest in our cities, to help improve our cities, to have the conversations about how we can improve our cities. We absolutely need to improve transit. We need to revitalize downtown. However, we don't need to completely flatten it and start from the ground up. We can take a lot of the really great things about our city and build on that and improve on that. And once we do that, and once we include business leaders in the conversation on improvement, on revitalization, I think then if people feel listened to, it can inspire confidence right away. And once we start that listening conversation, then I think that the confidence will come naturally. Working in politics for as long as I have, I found that confidence is one of the most important things. And you can't build confidence. You can only build the necessary infrastructure around confidence that will boost confidence in general. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Thank you also for moderating yourself. I didn't have to moderate at all there. Thank you. This is what happens when you have a volunteer moderator, right? We just get very excited when the timelines line up versus but also really great about, I heard you describing about confidence can be built when people are heard. And I thought that was a really, really valid point. So thank you for that. Over to my little, I guess I don't really need this fancy randomizer. I just thought it was kind of cool that I could download it and then plug names in and it tells me what order, but probably don't need that either. Laura, how do we, Laura Shantz from Ward 12, I guess people do vote with your last name. I have to make sure that I'm saying everybody's last name here, but Laura Shantz from Ward 12, how do we inspire confidence for investors and entrepreneurs?
One of the big things that comes up again and again and again for folks that I've spoken to, and I'm sure that many other folks here have as well, is really building that livable city, and the city where people want to be, a city that attracts people and that helps retain our talent. There's a lot of cities that talk big games about acquiring businesses or getting businesses to come, but the real important part is making sure that this is a place they'll want to stay. And that goes for both our biggest businesses and our smallest. There's a lot of excitement right now about this new Nokia deal, bringing new staff to Ottawa, but there's also a huge, huge potential in having a great livable city that would attract small businesses as well. Because for many of our business owners who want to live right here in the community, often having that really great quality of life, as Stuart mentioned, Stuart and I are together on Ottawa Transit Riders Board of Directors. We've served there, and having that great public transit, making it easy to get around by bus or by foot or by bike or however folks choose to get around, that's super important. It's also incredibly important that we make sure that, it feels good to be in our neighborhoods. If we're thinking about, big businesses, it's often about, warehouse space or logistics capabilities. But when we think about our small businesses, it's about making sure also inspiring confidence by having those beautiful main streets and those beautiful districts where it feels good to set up, that there's excitement about being part of the community and being part of something vibrant. And, we've got a long way to go when it comes to places like Byward Market and Montreal Road, but there's a direction, there's a path, there's a vision for what the complete project will look like and how we're going to be creating these really walkable, vibrant 15-minute neighborhoods that we all want to see. That's going to be a huge part of it, is just making sure that we are providing the environment where businesses can grow and thrive. If I'm a business person looking to set up, it's about, of course, money's always on my mind. It's also thinking about how we're going to make sure that those small independent businesses that have long been the lifeblood of our community are going to be able to afford rents. It's really making sure that we've got plans in place that we are encouraging local businesses, newcomer businesses, and putting those pieces together to make sure that they can both even have the infrastructure to take a chance, but that they can also be successful. Because there you go.
No, go ahead and finish that thought.
No, just because if we don't, it's one thing to set up here, but it's another thing to be here for the long term, and that's what we really want.
Thank you very much. Now, I appreciate that we need to have a community where people want to not just move to and set up, but that they also want to stay. Right, staying power. To your point early on was, I think maybe it gets overlooked sometimes, right? And it does come down to what are the elements of a city where employees want to live and where business owners want to set up shop, but also where do their team members want to live and stay and not move out at first chance. So some very valid points there. Over to Ariel Troster, Ward 14. Ariel Troster.
There. So I certainly agree with Stuart and with Laura about the importance of world-class public transit. What we have right now is not functional, it's not respecting people's time, and it's not respecting their money. And if we want people to be able to sustainably get to local businesses, they need to be able to get there by transit and to get to work on time. But the other issue that I'm seeing is the cost of housing in the city is out of control. A study recently came out saying, or the latest statistic is that a 1-bedroom is costing people potentially $2,000 a month, which is just obscene. I've been knocking on thousands of doors, and what I'm hearing is that people are scared they won't be able to stay in the city. So if you want to attract talent, you need to be able to house people. You don't want to have a city that's entirely the enclave of the rich. And businesses won't be able to attract grocery store workers or administrative assistants. I'm even hearing from public servants who make public servant salaries in Ottawa who don't feel that they can afford to live should they be pushed out of their current apartment. So we need to work with the business community and the development community to build more affordable housing, and not just, nominally affordable. We need truly affordable housing across this whole city. And in doing that, we'll make sure that the workers and the business owners can have a place to live near to their business, which is really, really important. If we don't tackle the housing crisis, we're not going to be a welcoming place for business to set up shop. There are examples in San Francisco and in Vancouver where even tech workers who make really big salaries, they can't afford to buy a home. Sometimes they can't afford rent. So I do think that's something we need to tackle together. And I think it involves, I recently met with a consortium that's working with the Ottawa Senators to develop the arena at Le Breton. And when they talk about the need for a mixed use community, they've made a commitment to 20% affordable housing. And I said, that's great, but I want to see you work with a nonprofit housing provider to provide permanently, truly affordable housing instead of slightly reduced rents that are still really high that will still create a class divide in the neighborhood. It is deeply important to our downtown community to remain a mixed community because those are healthy communities. Otherwise, you'll never find someone to work at that grocery store that's going into the condo buildings that desperately want one. So we need to make sure that there's place for all of us in our city and businesses that serve all of us. So I've also heard, why we love Farm Boy, but it's super expensive. Why is there not a discount grocery store downtown? Why is there not an affordable one? Other than the dollar store, you're kind of in trouble. So if businesses would really think about serving the full spectrum of customers, because we have a really wide income divide in our neighborhood, it would be beneficial for all of us.
Thank you very much. And one of our priorities, and we talked about transit a little bit, but as a business community, we certainly do see the need for kind of I would call it two, both can fall under affordable housing, but there is really the need for funding envelopes and a funding model from municipal and probably provincial and maybe even federal, as it once was, for social housing and to support families that need those supports. We also are advocating for streamlining development and approval processes where it makes sense, and really strategic building, because building more we believe will reduce the cost. Right? I was shocked to hear the housing community say that the nine net new apartments were built this year and went on the market in 2020. to 9, not 900, 9. And so, okay, this is obviously part of the challenge as well. So how do we work on that? I don't have the answers to that, but we're asking the council collaborate, and we'd love to be a part of that collaboration between the building community, potentially between the provincial government as well, maybe even the federal government, for what does that look like. So thank you again for your response. I will back to my little randomizer here and over to, on behalf of Stephanie Plant, Alan Neef is with us from Ward 12. How do we inspire confidence for investors and entrepreneurs?
So thanks, Rick. First of all, just a lot of excellent points that were made on the call right now, and I do think that, like, transit, the 15-minute neighborhood, making people feel that they can live in their city is something that Stephanie very much supports. In terms of the confidence that you were talking about, and so housing is obviously a big one, and Stephanie is very committed to, like, looking. There's a lot of federal buildings in the city because, as a result of the pandemic, are either underused or not used at all. And because post-pandemic, there is a turn towards more working at home, does the federal government need as many of these commercial spaces? So can we actually look into a possibility where, if this commercial space is going for sale, a right of first refusal, where both the city can look at and see whether or not an investment in affordable housing or growth can actually make sense to serve the residents or the people of that specific area. I think another thing too is, so how do you make people stay? So one of the big things that Stephanie has on her platform is about doctor recruitment. Many people will turn an eye and say, oh, that's automatically a provincial issue, but there have been successful pilots in Kingston and in Windsor where the city has gotten involved, and basically a lot of the doctors, what they want to do is they want to focus mostly on their patients. But a big part of their work is a lot of the admin and overhead stuff. You need probably a degree just to understand insurance billing and how much time that takes. And so what the city can do is possibly offer incentives. We have a medical school in our ward, in Ward 12. Why don't we give some of those incentives to doctors to basically say, well, here we can offer some assistance with helping you operate so that you have some turnkey operations so that you can focus in on your patients. That builds them into the community. They will then, if they start building their practice, then they'll probably stay a bit longer. And then we have them hooked. We want them here. They stay here for a longer time and they invest in the community. So that's one example where she's focused in on. But we can probably try and take that example and apply it to other areas of our living to attract different businesses. Like, doctors are a form of business and they are a form of supporting people in business. And we hear at the door constantly about how people cannot get a family doctor. So that's just one small segment of her plan. But I think that in a lot of areas that this type of collaboration between provincial, federal, and municipal is something that she's very proud of and that she wants to work toward. Thank you.
Thank you very much. One of our, it's fantastic here. If everybody just keeps touching on our points, then my transitions back and forth may get very easy. Build for better health is also really important to the business community, right? I mean, yeah, sure, we also think we can get there by making sure that there's stability in taxes. Doesn't necessarily mean, no tax or no tax increases. That may be the reality of the inflationary environment that we're in. However, stability from a business community standpoint is, if we can anticipate what council is going to do, we can certainly operate better. We can do long-term forecasting. We can make that investment in hiring another individual. We can do that, right? But on the health front, we feel really strongly about the opportunity to advocate for a new campus at a new Ottawa Hospital campus. And there's some contention around it, and don't want to get too deep into any of the contention, but we can see the opportunity for investment in in medical technologies that come along with that from a business standpoint. And then certainly there's social impacts of having modernized hospital here in our community as well. So again, it's and so to your point, Alan, by proxy for Stephanie, there certainly is some opportunity to think about the business side of healthcare, but then also the social impacts of healthcare as well. 2 candidates remaining to, my randomizer is maybe failing because it was the same last 2 candidates that had the chance to speak before, but it is what it is. Over to you, Kim Leclerc from Ward 12. How do we inspire confidence for investors and entrepreneurs?
Yes, I think like for have inspiring confidence, we have to make sure that we know where we are going as a city, and we have a lot of great idea and piecemeal, but it's really important that to have a plan, to have a vision. Where do we want our city to be in 2050? We want to, it's really important because after that you can have everything, because if you know how Nepean will develop, how Canada will develop, how Orleans will develop, how we develop our downtown, you can have all the piece, the transit, the medical, the other stuff, to make sure that we know where we're going. And it's really important for business, especially for people's coming from outside, because they know where they will go. If they decide to go at one place, the city won't change in a few years. And on the other side, if we want also to attract investment from outside, we have to do a better job to promote Ottawa outside of our country. I have do a lot of international program, and this is a question always coming to me. Where is the city of Ottawa? We see the government, we see the province, we have Calgary, but where is Ottawa? You're not supposed to be the capital of the G7 country. And I think we can do a better job to promote our city because we have a lot of advantage. We have we have the most educated city of the most educated country in the world. This is by himself really attracting. So we have to make sure the business know where we will be to make sure that we will be able to attract the people.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And I think that future thinking, right, is something that the business community is really asking this council to, not just thinking about your ward, which is important. It is, I guess, your main job as the councillor of that ward, but we're asking, thinking about the impacts for the greater community, and then really asking council to, in the short term, look at the hardest hit sectors, but in the long term, really be thinking beyond even the hardest hit sectors, beyond our current brand, but what's the brand that we'd like to have in the world, not just in Canada, not just in Ontario, but globally. What's Ottawa's brand in I think, did you say 2050? So in 2050, what's the brand look like? I think that's a fair date, maybe even sooner, 2035. Over to again, last and certainly not least, but Patrick Auguste from Ward 12. How do we inspire confidence for investors and entrepreneurs?
I think one of the key words is transparency, because it's like there's a lack of information generally, is to tell the different group, different actors in the different, to know exactly where we're going, and to talk with them, to have a more like interactive communication, to know exactly what every challenges are, what every group what they are facing. And for example, I went to talk with farmers in Byward Market. The youth are not there anymore. What we can do, we have some asset in the area, like the Ottawa youth, for example, who lead some pilot project, develop it. We have to build, every community part of the city have to feel they're involved in a world plan. That's very important. This transparency. What you see A lot of people complain about the building, etc. It's like we don't ever know what is going on there. That's very important, transparency, and to come up with a simple plan that summarize it, or every group as to say where they are in this plan and what how they can contribute. Yeah, the citizen, the business people have to be feel that they're part of this collective, like a teamwork. Very important. That means the feeling to be part of a team, the part of the city, then that can make people that feel confidence and make more effort in what they do and be more motivated. Very important. And we have some key factors in, has been said already, about being the capital of Canada, being that place there's community, different communities living. We have something rich there we can be proud of and build from there, but transparency is very a key word.
Thank you very much, Patrick. Board of Trade, we've been talking a lot about the service excellence that we think is possible from the city of Ottawa and from, maybe it starts with transparency, to your point, first, so that we can understand exactly what's possible before looking for excellence. Very interesting point as well. I would like to take a moment and just recognize that all of the candidates who've joined us here today are in the final stretch and are extremely busy. So on behalf of the Board of Trade, we're very not only proud that you've taken some time of what is, I'm sure, a very wild schedule, especially as we're in the final stretch here, but also that that you've given up maybe your small chance to eat some lunch and join us and have a chat back with the business community. We'll wrap it there for today. And but I do want to say, on the call here, we potentially have 2 city councillors from 2 different wards here on the call, and we're excited about that potentially. But also, you're clearly all community leaders. And we'd like to keep these, just the nature of a roundtable in an election. It has to be kind of almost like a debate format, right? To be fair to everybody. But I will say, on behalf of the advocacy committee, which we're a group of volunteers, we'd like to continue to have more dialogue, back and forth dialogue, brainstorming almost with all of you, regardless of who's elected. You're clearly all community leaders, and we'd like to continue these conversations and these roundtables as we move forward. So on behalf of the business community, on behalf of the Ottawa Board of Trade, and even on behalf of some of our stakeholders, our local business improvement associations or local BIAs that we work very closely with, I want to extend a huge thank you to all of you. And this recording will be on our buildupottawa.ca website. We're also going to promote this out to our members broadly because we're very appreciative of your taking some time to speak with all of us here today. So once again, on behalf of the Ottawa Board of Trade, thank you so much to our council candidates who joined us today. Have a great day. Back at the doors, probably back out meeting people, shaking hands, fixing up signs, doing everything that you need to do as a candidate. So thank you again. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.